I'm Joe Dunleavy, the Head of Innovation at Endava, and I'm delighted to be joined today by my colleague, our Chief Engineer, Eoin Woods, and we are talking about the very exciting topic of artificial intelligence challenges and opportunities. So thanks for joining me today, Eoin. Nice, easy opening question for you, but I'm interested to see what artificial intelligence means to you.
Nice big broad question to start with, thank you for that one. Well, to me, artificial intelligence, it's a new approach to computing, which has been 30 years in the making, so it's taken a long time to get here, but it avoids the limitations of traditional computing, which is very declarative, where we have to encode all the rules for the problem we're trying to solve into computer code. Instead, AI builds statistical models based on lots and lots of data relevant to the problem that we've seen before, and it uses those patterns that it's found to solve similar problems without us having to code the instructions on how to do it explicitly. So this opens up new areas that we just couldn't solve before, things like text processing, image processing, and so on.
What do you see as some of the benefits coming from artificial intelligence? Like if you're in a business or if you're a client of Endava's, what do you see as some of those benefits from an artificial intelligence perspective?
It just allows us to solve problems we couldn't solve before. And for some problems we could solve before that were quite expensive to solve, it took us a very long time, it's far, far quicker to solve them. Because we don't have to encode all the rules, because we can rely on these huge data sets that have got lots and lots of rich patterns in them, and those patterns can then be synthesized to solve similar problems again, it just gives us so many more opportunities.
So in your role as our Chief Engineer, I'm really interested in what you see artificial intelligence and how it can help from an engineering or software development perspective. I'd be intrigued to hear that.
Yeah, that's exciting. For a long time we've had simple tools to help developers that can, for example, guess at the completion of lines of code. But now with the release of commercial tools based on generative AI models, we can help graphic designers create images, we can help business analysts analyze documents and create new content. For developers, there's much more sophisticated code assistance tools that can write entire blocks of code, can write tests for code. Even some of them, if you give them the tests, they can have a good stab at writing the code. So it's a really exciting time. There's a lot of new things we can do.
Any recent examples of AI, you mentioned with generative AI, anything in that space that you're excited about, that you'd like to maybe bring up or reference? That'd be really interesting.
There's so much going on in the space, isn't there? Yeah. And I know that you're seeing as much as anyone because of your role at Endava. From my perspective, some of the exciting things are the way that we can now process documents. We can start with PDFs, we can use AI techniques to extract all the text from them, we can understand the structure of the text, and then we can process it in ways that we just couldn't do before. We had to rely on human beings rekeying things or actually filling in forms for us to tell us what was in the documents. Now we can do all that automatically, which is a huge time saver for people and avoids lots of very repetitive, error-prone work.
Yeah, and I think like you're mentioning in terms of the use of documents and stuff as well, you're starting to see even in the generative AI space, like speciality starting to appear now. Like I came across a company there this week or last week, Harvey. They are after raising about 21 million, so again, we're seeing a lot of money going into the space, but they're a company that builds large language models specialized for the legal industry, which I think is really interesting because you're starting to see what ended up being quite generic, maybe now starting to be more precise to a particular industry. So I think that's a really, really interesting thing to think a look at. Some of the challenges, so we talked a bit about the benefits and opportunities. What do you see as some of the challenges from an artificial intelligence perspective, from your view?
I think there's a couple immediately spring to mind. I mean, one is accuracy, of course. Sometimes the models produce very credible looking output that's simply incorrect. They are, after all, just pattern matching. It's a bit like when a human being bluffs. They know about the field, but actually they're not quite sure what the answer is, but they'll still give you an answer. That could be a problem. The other thing, of course, is that where did the information come from? Our corporate lawyers are constantly warning us the fact that models are sometimes trained on information that actually belong to someone else. And the third area, I think, is the whole area of ethics and privacy, is that how the models are created, the outputs they create, the information that's encoded in them. We've got to be careful that we don't violate people's privacy, that we don't discriminate against people, that we treat people fairly. I think all those are things that, although this is very exciting technology and it's moving fast, we just need to be aware that all those things are possible concerns.
Yeah, and I think you see this commonly, right? I mean, the pace of the technology is probably quicker than the ability to, from a compliance and legal perspective as well. And I think we've seen that with multiple technologies. This is not something that's unique to just artificial intelligence, but it's definitely something that I think companies should be aware of and be planning as part of their overall strategy.
That's very true. It's not the first time we've had these challenges. They've just perhaps arrived a bit quicker than we expected with AI.
Yeah, obviously generative AI has made this be a very keen topic. I suppose AI's been around for quite some time, but the generative AI coverage that people are excited about, I think it's starting to put it maybe more in the centre than it has been, although AI, as you mentioned, has been around for quite well, tens of years at this point. Just to finish up then, what would you like to finish on from an important message that you think would be for those out there? Advice maybe around some of the opportunities and some of the challenges around AI. So for those that maybe are not as far along as their journey, or potentially if they're already working in AI for quite some time, what do you see as some of the challenges and opportunities in terms of closing this out?
Well, I think the first thing is, if they're not already trying to work with AI, especially the packaged generative AI, get started, find out what it can do, and then be aware of the challenges, because you don't want to end up in a situation with a very promising application when you suddenly realise you might have risks or concerns that prevent you going any further. But overall, I think the way that we really look at it in Dava is it's a tremendous opportunity to augment human beings, to take repetitive, error-prone drudge work away from people, allow people to focus on value and creativity. And if we focus there and bear some of the risks in mind as we go, we're just a little bit cautious, there's tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's a really, really important point. Artificial intelligence can aid productivity, it can help humans. I think there's a very strong element of human in the loop as an important part to come back to some of the challenges around it. But I think overall, looking at it, it's a more exciting opportunity than we've seen in quite some time. Thank you very much for your time today, Eoin. It was a pleasure, and thanks again.
Thanks, lovely to talk to you.